I'll admit, at first impression I was a little concerned that Ori and the Will of the Wisps may have strayed too far from the first game's light, but after 2 hours of hands-on gameplay, it's clear this is a sequel designed to cater to all playstyles and improve on its established formula with more freedom, experimentation, and a fun new set of weapons and abilities. But in the process, it's also picked up what could be a few new weaknesses. Story-wise, Ori and the Will of the Wisps continues where Ori and the Blind Forest left off, with a new family member. As we've come to expect from Moon Studios, the animations, music, and dynamic lighting evoke a sense of wonder as we're reintroduced to these adorable characters and their obvious kinship. Thankfully, there's no heart-wrenching loss to kickstart the plot this time, but rather a childish misstep, an Icarus-like moment of recklessness that leads straight into an adventure. Will of the Wisps is a marriage of old and new. Objectives are familiar: find the keys, open doors, move on. But experiencing this world is distinctly different this time. While colorful enemies and chase sequences aren't new to the series, legitimate boss fights are, and the gruesomeness of my bout with Howl was an early indication of Will of the Wisp's stronger emphasis on combat. Fighting with Ori's sword-like Spirit Edge took some getting used to, but it didn't take me long to fall in love with it as a welcome, much more active alternative to Blind Forest's Spirit Flame. In fact, most of Will of the Wisps feels more alive and lived in. Branches shift as you walk across them, ancient relics activate at your touch, and structures shelter small societies of dainty woodland beings. Newly added side quests are meant to serve this purpose too. Ori and the Will of the Wisps' aim for accessibility is obvious. For example, there are 3 difficulty settings to choose from, but it still maintains its challenge and manages to remove some frustrations in the process. Chiefly, autosaves now occur at frequent checkpoints, so remembering to create a soul link to manually save is a thing of the past. This change also frees up a face button, which is used to map weapons from Ori's extended arsenal. And you're going to need that slot considering just how many weapons can be purchased and upgraded with in-game currency. Player choice goes a step further with my favorite addition, the Spirit Shard system. Instead of a traditional skill tree, you can select up to 3 Spirit Shards to start that give you different perks or abilities. While exploring, I found, earned, and used shards like Resilience to reduce incoming damage and Magnet to pull items to me automatically. Shards like Reckless can even be used to raise the stakes, increasing damage dealt and taken by 15%, opening a high-risk, high-reward playstyle. Enemies old and new haunt Will of the Wisp's forest, and using the environment to your advantage and enemy strengths against them is still a huge part of combat and one of the most engaging aspects of any given fight. But even though maps can be purchased and even show your most recent path, one of the more frustrating obstacles were the moments where I felt turned around. It can be hard to know if you're supposed to be backtracking as part of the design or if you just missed something and are wasting time. Though the first 2 hours of Wisps isn't enough to say for sure, all the shiny new combat options made for some dull boss battles. Because every tool and playstyle needs to be effective against every boss, these encounters feel a little straightforward. Fortunately, Will of the Wisp's environmental puzzle solving remains promising and strikes that delicate balance of being easy enough not to bring the whole adventure to a halt, while still giving you that feeling of accomplishment for figuring it out. Ori and the Will of the Wisps shines in making traversal a blast. Crawling up every wall, swinging on every branch, and carefully combing for secrets is a crucial part of any good Metroidvania. The more I played, the more enamored I became with the combinations of Spirit Shards and downright beautiful acrobatic abilities to whiz around. And while there are plenty of new things to enjoy in Wisp's opening hours, elements from Blind Forest return as some of the strongest parts, specifically Bash, which can be used to reach new heights and do some damage. Will of the Wisps is the platforming playground I want, and I was constantly pushing myself to reach every item I spotted, especially if it required a little finesse. Despite my minor gripes with Ori's new direction, Will of the Wisps platforming feels as good as it looks, and I can't wait to see what else is waiting in the new forest when Ori and the Will of the Wisps leaps onto Xbox One and PC on March 11th, 2020. For more indie game content, check out the first 8 minutes of Bloodroots, and for everything else, you're already in the right place. IGN.